Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Vickie's Country Home. Today I want to make for you sourdough English muffins, and I haven't tried this recipe yet. It's something that's been on my wish list for a while and never just quite found the time to do it. So today I'm going to make it. This recipe, I have several. This recipe came from King Arthur Flour website, so if you want to check it out, please go ahead, but I'll give you all the measurements and everything. So I've got everything pretty much mostly weighed out and measured out, and so let's get started. Alright, I'm going to use my KitchenAid mixer for this one. You could do it by hand, but this is a little bit different process than I normally use for sourdoughs. So the first thing we're going to do, everything's going to go in the bowl. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar, and this is organic raw sugar. I've got 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. You can also use instant yeast. And let me go get my warm water. It needs to be between 110 and 115 degrees. So I'll be right. Alright, I've got this at 111 degrees, and that's 2 cups. So 2 cups of warm water, and I've added that to my sugar and my dry yeast. And I'm just going to mix it up just a bit. Okay, now we're going to add our sourdough starter, and this recipe said it can be either fed or unfed. Well, I fed mine last night and it's looking pretty good. It's active. So we need 1 cup, and it's strange because for me, when you make sourdough or pretty much any bread, you weigh your ingredients. Because how do you know if it's fed or unfed? How do you know how much is a cup? But that's what this recipe calls for. So I've got 1 cup of my sourdough starter. And it says if it's fed, it just gives you a more active rice. And I'm sure that's true. Okay. Get that out of the way and cover up this sourdough so it doesn't dry out. Okay, and I'm just going to give that a stir to combine it. Not so much to combine, more just to break it up just a little bit. Because the sourdough starter is kind of stringy if it's active. So we've got that in there. And now we're going to add the 7 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. So let me get that over here. And I've measured it out, but I'm just going to kind of check it as I go. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I scooped this out of this bowl, so this is going to be a little more compacted. But when you measure it out, you scoop, anytime you're doing flour or any dry measurement, you scoop it lightly into the measuring scoop. You don't pour it, you don't you don't scoop it out into the cup. You always want to scoop into your measuring cup to make sure you get accurate measure. Kind of just knock that stuff down a little bit. And we're going to add a half of a cup of instant non-fat dry milk. Okay. And this is getting a little full, so I'm just going to turn it on to mix a little bit. Okay. And I think now I'm going to go ahead and put my dough hook on here now that I've got it just a little bit mixed. And we're going to add a 1/4 cup of room temperature softened butter. And you really want that room temperature. And 1 tablespoon of salt. Okay, let's get this going. Now I'm going to let this go until it forms a smooth dough. And this could take a few minutes, so I'll bring you back when we get to that point. Okay, let's test this and see what it looks like. I'm going to just take a little ball of dough. And you're looking for it to be nice and elastic. And you're also, and this recipe doesn't call for it, but this is typically what you'll do, is you want to try and form what's called a window pane. So you want to be able to stretch this very, very thin without breaking. I don't know if you could see, but there you can actually see light through that. So I'm going to say this is done. It's not real sticky and it's nice and smooth, and we were able to form the window pane. So now I'm going to take this out and form a ball, and then I'm going to put it in a lightly greased bowl and cover that. And I'm going to let this sit for about 1.5 hours. So let me put this in a bowl. We're going to cover it, let it rest and rise for 1.5 hours. Bring you back then. All right, this sat for about 1.5 hours, and what we're looking for is it to look puffy. And you know what? This looks puffy. So now we're going to punch it down and deflate it. And then we're going to turn this out onto a lightly floured board. And we're going to cover this and let it rest for just a few minutes. We want that dough to relax, but we don't want it drying out, so we'll cover it up. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, it's been a few minutes. Let's check this. I think that's going to work. That's better. When you punch this dough down, if you want, at that point, you could leave it in that bowl covered and put it in the refrigerator for 24 hours. That's going to give you more of a sourdough type English muffin. I'm not doing that today, but that is totally a possibility. So if you want more of that sourdough taste in your English muffin, make this, punch it down, and then put it in the refrigerator for 24 hours. we're going to skip that part and we're just going to go ahead and make these. So we let this rest for about, oh, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. And now we're going to divide it in two. That's just for ease of working. And I'm just going to put the other half in a bowl while I'm working, just to give me room on my marble board here. And I'm going to cover this up because I don't want it to dry out. So just reuse your plastic wrap like that. Okay. Now we're just going to pat it out a little bit just to make it easier to work. Okay, now what we're looking to do is to get this rolled out to about a 1/2 inch thickness. And it shouldn't take too long because it's actually pretty close. It's about 1 inch. And you can measure if you want. And actually we've got these neat little tools here. So I'm pretty much there. And now what we're going to do is I have a baking sheet that I have liberally sprinkled with cornmeal. So what I'm going to do is get a little flour on my cutter. I have a 3-inch cutter. And I'm just going to go through and cut them out. Okay, then we're going to take each of these and I'm just going to put them on that baking sheet that I have lined with cornmeal. Okay, I'm going to just put this back together and roll it out again. Say this really is a pretty easy recipe, at least so far. Now if you'd like and you don't want to roll them out and use the 3-inch cutter, you can also divide the dough, all of the dough, into 24 pieces, and then you just shape them. But it really is not that much work to roll it out. You saw it just took a minute. And I'm not even going to roll this one. I'm just going to shape it. And it's a little big. That's okay. Now I'm going to do the same to the other half of this dough. A little more flour. And then we're going to let this rest and rise for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll check it. Alright, so it took I don't know, between 45 and 60 minutes before these really looked like they were rising. So now what we're going to do is I have a cast iron griddle that I am going to start heating up on my stovetop. So it says to use an electric skillet. I don't have one. I won't have one because conductive heat, resistive heat uses so much power. So we don't do that. But cast iron griddle on my range will work. I just have to get the temperature about right. And what we're going to do is we are going to put these on here as many as we can without crowding right side up. So I'm going to let this get hot. Oop, it's there. Maybe not 350, but it's good for me. So I'm going to put these on there, and you don't want to crowd them, but you want to get them on there. And one tip that I saw is let them go for about 5 minutes and then put a cake pan or something on top of them, and that will keep them from getting a dome-shaped top. So as soon as I get these on here, I will do that. And by the way, these are going to go wonderful with my lemon ginger marmalade. So that was part of the reason for getting this done now. So I'm just going to let those go about 5 minutes while I go get something to put on top. So we're going to cook these total of about 10 to 12 minutes on each side. And I think I got 26, 27 of them. So it's going to take me 2 or 3 different times to get them all done. Alright, these are starting to puff up. So I'm just going to place a pan on top. You don't want to weight it down. All you're trying to do is keep them from getting poofy. I love that word, poofy, on top. So I'm just going to keep an eye on these, and in a few minutes I'll flip them over and then I will take the pan off the top. But for now I just want to get them browned on the bottom and partway done. And then once we do that, we'll flip them over, let them finish cooking, and then we'll start the next batch. Okay, these got a little bit too brown on the bottom, but part of it is my range not knowing how my burners should be set up. Yeah, it's reading a lot higher than I want, so I'm turning it way down. Once these reach an internal temperature of 190 degrees, we know that they're done. And I just happen to have an instant read thermometer, so I'll keep an eye on it. The largest one's at like 147. So I'll check a smaller one. And that one's done. So I'm going to take that one off. And I'm going to check them all and pull them off as they get done. So I'll bring you back. Okay, I've still got a few more cooking, but Shayna and I decided we're going to test this for you. She's not on camera, but that's okay. So we're just going to break that open and look. Isn't that beautiful? A little bit different. It doesn't have as many holes and little crannies in it as the ones you buy. I don't know if that's because of the sourdough or not. We'll put just a little bit of fresh butter. All right, now we're going to put some of my lemon ginger marmalade. We've already gone through a jar of this, and it's only been, I think, 2 days. Yeah. Brian loves it. So do I, but Brian really loves it. And Shayna hasn't tasted the marmalade because she hadn't been home. See what happens when you aren't at home, Shayna?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here you go.
Thank you.
Doesn't that look wonderful?
Oh, yum.
Mmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, I think these are good.
Mm-hmm.
So, another successful recipe. We'll be eating these up pretty fast. So thank you for coming by. Thank you for visiting Vickie's Country Home. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with your friends. And as always, thank you for watching Vickie's Country Home, and we'll talk again soon.